The last time Canada had a majority government was more than a decade ago. But yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberal Party achieved that. How? By taking on Trump. One article called him Trump's nemesis, pivoting away from the U.S. and towards the rest of the world. And that's what Canadians themselves are doing too. And it's hurting the North Country economy. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Advisory services offered through Hightower Advisors LLC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. And Kinney Drugs, now accepting S3 Nations benefits and OTC Network Wellness benefit cards for eligible over-the-counter health items. Details at KinneyDrugs.com.
Hey, I'm David Summerstein. It's Tuesday, April 14th, and let's get right to it because I have a little gift at the end. President Trump's tariffs and threats about making Canada the 51st state has made the United States kind of damaged goods in the North. And that sour relationship has impacted the North Country. Communities are losing revenue, businesses, and tourists. Last month, Governor Kathy Hochul traveled to Ogdensburg to hear concerns from local business leaders. Catherine Wheeler was there and has our story.
On a warm March morning, Governor Kathy Hochul visited the Dubisky Center in Ogdensburg. She peered out across the sparkling St. Lawrence River.
The first thing you see, how our close connectivity to Canada and what that has meant throughout our history. It's an economic partnership that has endured and thrived.
But that relationship is deeply strained after President Donald Trump enacted steep tariffs against Canada and amped up political rhetoric, going so far as to call the nation the 51st state. Hochul says it's disappointing because Canada isn't just New York's neighbor.
These are our friends. This is a relationship that we benefit from as at a personal level, but also it's such an important part of our economy, especially in these communities here.
Canada is New York's largest export market, about a fifth. In 2024, the state exported $17.4 billion worth of goods north. But last year, that fell by close to $4 billion because of tariffs, according to the state comptroller's office. At Hochul's roundtable, St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Ben Dixon said the region can feel it. He said restaurants, small businesses, healthcare and educational groups, museums, and newspapers have all reported negative impacts since the tariffs began.
They're talking about raw material costs increasing by anywhere from 15 to 300%. And there are no U.S.-made alternatives, supply chain interruptions, lack of supply, delivery delays, price explosions.
Dixon said businesses are trying to find strategies to cover the cost, like reducing the number or kinds of products they sell, passing the cost on to the customer, or by cutting staff. But some can't absorb it.
Apothecary Chocolates, one of our artisan chocolate producers, just is no longer operating because of the cost to import the chocolate.
Tense international relations are also impacting tourism. The state comptroller says travel from Canada into New York fell by 21% last year. Bridge traffic is down across the region. In Ogdensburg, it dropped 23% in 2025, leading to about $500,000 in lost toll revenue. In the Thousand Islands, tourism director Corey Fram says Canadian spending there fell by 59% last year compared to 2024.
That's tens of millions of dollars that were just removed from our regional economy last year. Canadians are a significant market for us from a visitor perspective, and that's important because in Jefferson County, where I live, around 11% of the workforce is tied to tourism.
Forecasts for the upcoming tourist season don't look much better. Data from the travel research firm Longwoods International shows that nearly 60% of Canadian travelers said the U.S. government's actions and political rhetoric make them less likely to visit over the next year. And most say it's the main reason they won't cross the border. Fram told Hochul he's hopeful the Thousand Islands and other New York border communities can get Canadians back, but they need help.
My ask is just for the continued positive messaging that's come from your administration, just to help us continue to position ourselves that when they're ready to return, that we're their first stop.
Hochul said she's trying to do that by meeting with Canadian leaders and differentiating the state's views from federal policy as much as she can. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio in Ogdensburg.
Maintaining NCPR's 35 radio transmitters is a full-time job or more. Think about that, 35 antennas. But our engineer, Kurt Lanning, somehow manages to find time to also lend a hand to other broadcasters, too. A couple weeks ago, when there was still plenty of punky, rotten snow at the top of Lyon Mountain, Kurt took a hike to the Mountain Lake PBS transmitter and sent this audio postcard.
Well, we made it about a mile and a half, maybe a little bit less, up the Lyon Mountain Trail on the north side, going up to Averill Peak. And as you can hear, lots of water, ice and snow melt happening. I've got my Hill Sound crampons on. I'm gonna hike up from the ledges here, so. Well, I think I'm about halfway on my hike. I've made it about 8 power poles from where we parked the rig. There's a little bit more snow up here, as you can imagine. Probably getting around 3,000 feet now. So, you'll hear from me again when I'm at the shack. Whew. At the end of that last clip, as I said, the snow was getting deep. I promptly sank to about my hip. But, so I'm on deep snow now, and deep underneath, the stream is just ripping down this mountain. And I forgot to wear my good boots, so my right foot might get wet. I think I'm at about pole 40 here. And it's usually by now I would look up and say, wow, there's the tower. It's right there. But it is so foggy up here in the clouds. I know it's there, but I can't see it. And if it sounds like I'm out of breath, I am. You might be asking, well, Kurt, how do you get this sort of job where you get to just hike to the top of mountains in 5-foot deep snow? And you know, it's the sort of thing where just smarter people wouldn't do it. So here we are. Whew. We made it up to the peak. I've got my keys here. We'll head inside and see what we can get into here. We checked a few maintenance items off our list here at the shack, and hopefully we've improved the dehydrator situation. It looks like we're going to need to replace it here. So that'll have to happen once this snow is gone, probably sometime in June. So that's all from Averill Peak here in Clinton County. I have a nice leisurely walk back down towards the machine and then to the car. And that is the sound of me back at my little blue car. Somewhat successful trip up Lyon. Anyway, that's it for this engineer postcard. So thanks for listening.
News from NPR is next, but now I can say it. News is next.
That was NCPR's engineer, Kurt Lanning, his first audio postcard. Big shout out to Kurt. Way to get your voice on the radio. We love hearing from you. Also, big shout out to our former engineer, Radio Bob Sauter, who you heard in the background there, actually on the radio. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Christopher Watts of Canton and Eddie Lawrence of Saranac Lake. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.